CLNS Media Patriots Roundtable. I'm one of your co-hosts, Nick Quaglia, here with Marv Ezhan and Mike Molyneaux. And listen, the Patriots, they're near the top of the division. And not only did they win yesterday, but the Bills. Do the Bills stink? The Bills might stink. They gave Urban Meyer that's their second win. Nobody should be losing. Nobody, not even the Miami Dolphins, nobody should be losing to this Jacksonville Jaguars team. But somehow the Bills, who at the start of the season, we were all like, this team might run the AFC. They might go straight to the Super Bowl, no problem. They look a little different than they did last year, a lot less dominant. We have to talk about Sunday's game against the Carolina Panthers. And obviously, I wasn't here last week, so I didn't get the chance to say that 2 weeks ago, after the Patriots pummeled the Jets, we pumped the brakes a little bit and we said we have to wait until this Chargers game, which saved me some money by betting on that game. And the Patriots money line, it was too easy not to. It was too easy to take that. Too easy. We said that we had to see that Chargers game in order to make like a real judgment on that Jets game. Well, we saw the Chargers game. They won that game. The Patriots go ahead, beat the Panthers this week. So, guys, basically overall takeaways from this game, Patriots beat the Panthers 24-6. Now, looking ahead for the rest of the season, and you look at their schedule, they got the Browns coming up, they've got the Titans coming up, they've got the Falcons, whatever. They've got the Bills twice coming up. So it's not like they've got an easy schedule coming up. What are your thoughts on the performances in Sunday's game and how that might translate into the rest of the season, if that makes sense? Whoever wants to start, go for it.
I mean, it's very promising what you're seeing from this team, and especially defensively. I've been one that's criticized this team from the start of the year because of their defense. Their defense just hasn't been good. I've remained optimistic about the offense. I've said, over the course of the season, I firmly believe that the Patriots will get more offensively from the guys that they have. Mac Jones will continue to get better. All these guys that they've added in terms of offensive weapons, they'll start to show up a little bit more. And I've remained consistent with that. And if you look at these last couple of games, like the Patriots have won the game. I mean, yeah, they beat the Jets and they killed the Jets, which was good, a good confidence booster for them, but I didn't put too much thought into it. But then if you look at the Chargers game and then you look at the most recent game against the Panthers, it looks as if while the Patriots won that game, they had opportunities to put more points on the board than they did. There's a couple situations where not getting it done in the red zone and whatnot, but coming out of both
They
those
do.
games,
They still struggle in the red zone. That's something that's kind of similar from last season.
yeah, they definitely struggle in the red zone. So then in turn, it just overall you come out of those games saying, damn, the Patriots should have put up more points than they did. They should have definitely had more than 24 points against the Panthers. And I mean, again, it's still a good sign that they're trending in the right direction in terms of offensive, continuously looking better. But defensively, you know, you almost pretty much shut down a high-powered offense in the Chargers a couple of weeks ago. And then this Carolina Panthers team, they're not the same team that they were to start the year. Sam Darnold got to Carolina, and people thought, oh, all he needed was a change of scenery, and things were going to be clicking for him. Well, it looked pretty to start. And then he came back down to earth. That whole team's offense kind of crumbled, and losing Christian McCaffrey didn't hurt. But they got McCaffrey back. Um,
And the
Sam Darnold,
Patriots did pretty well against McCaffrey.
they did pretty well. He didn't
Uh,
have a explosive dominant game, but
Well, for what
didn't
McCaffrey is,
McCaffrey didn't play much though, Nick.
he did, McCaffrey
hey,
did a
I don't
lot
want to
more
hear
than expected.
excuses.
But I mean, for the most part, the Patriots pretty much held that offense in check. I wouldn't say Carolina Panthers have the worst offense in the NFL, but they're clearly not the best offense in the NFL. They're kind of a middle of the pack team in terms of offense. And Patriots did a solid job with them, especially in the secondary, bottling up those receivers, especially a guy like DJ Moore, who I know very well from my fantasy team. The Patriots, especially their secondary, held them in check and had saw Sam Darnold out there just playing like an idiot. So I'm very impressed with what I've seen from the defense these last couple of weeks, and I'm hoping that that's a trend that continues in the right direction. The offense, I'm not really worried about. I don't concern myself with the offense too much, but it's the defense that I'm hoping continues to improve and get better as the season goes on.
Well, I tell you, I mean, the combo of Christian Barmore and Matt Judon seems
It's great.
lethal. Seems lethal. I mean, like they, especially with Barmore being a rookie. I mean, this could be a strong, solid duo up front for a couple of years. I mean, they looked awesome, and I'm glad you brought up Sam Darnold and how he came back down to earth. One of my notes specifically in here says, "Was it the Jets or does Sam Darnold just stink at football?" Because I'm starting to feel like it's just Sam Darnold stinks at football because he looks, and I mean, I don't know if it's Bill Belichick that makes him look like a lunatic. You saw 1,000 times on Twitter yesterday, the ghost meme, obviously back from that Jets game a few years ago. But my God, Sam Darnold just might not be good, which is such a disappointment because remember when he came out, he was young, but when he came out and started for the Jets, people were like, okay, this kid might be really solid. He might be the real deal. And I mean, the Jets, they just tend to ruin people. So maybe that's happening with Zach Wilson now too. Or maybe Zach Wilson just stinks as well. It might be Mike White's season for the Jets.
Darnold started off really hot this season, and then somewhere along the way, I don't know, he just went back. He reverted back to who we saw from the New York Jets, which doesn't make sense because obviously he's in a much better offensive team, offensive system, and they have better weapons over there. I mean,
They've got
Christian
some damn good weapons for him.
Robbie Anderson, DJ Moore, like obviously with Christian McCaffrey healthy, that's a pretty solid offense. But Donald has just not been able to remain consistent for them.
Yeah, Robbie Anderson was about to choke slam
Oh,
Sam
he was
Darnold on the
pissed.
sideline.
He was
He's
pissed.
not having it. he's, I still, I mean, I don't know. I'm stupid. I don't really remember what happened with Teddy Bridgewater over the offseason. I like Teddy Bridgewater. Maybe he's not great, but I think he's better than Sam Darnold. Might have been a money situation. Uh, Marv, what do you think? What are your thoughts of the game and going forward?
Yeah, so you mentioned the two players, right, that have been anchoring this team pretty much. But Barrymore and Judon. Look, we're getting a player now who's actually tipping the balls at the line, right? Causing Sam Darnold and other quarterbacks to adjust how they throw the football. Matt Judon with 9 sacks so far in the season. The main takeaway off of these, I'll say these last two games, the Patriots are winning without Mac Jones playing well. Mac Jones
Yeah,
didn't have a great game against the Chargers, and this past game against the Panthers, he missed some throws. Yes, the passer rating is going to be up there, but you could tell that it wasn't Mac Jones' best game. That the interception that he threw to Gilmore, bad. It was just a bad. It was a bad play all around. We knew Gilmore was going to get one. You just had a feeling as a Patriots fan that
yeah,
Gilmore was going to
that was
get
obvious. That was
that
coming.
was going to come, but you hate to see it was that play. Like it was just premeditated, and Mac Jones should have never threw that football at all. So Mac Jones hasn't played well. I don't like seeing so many delays during as a quarterback. The offensive line with so many penalties, with Isaiah Wynn and Hunter Henry. So the Patriots played a sloppy game, and within that, they were still able to dominate the game, which is a really good sign. One that shows that your defense is finally coming along as well. I remember a couple shows back, Mike was talking about the Calvin Noys and the Dante Hightowers and what they've been bringing to the table, which was nothing at first. And now you're seeing them; they're making plays. Hightower, he's not gonna have a lot of stats as before, but he's everywhere. He's there with the pressure. He's been following on every play. Like you can see that Dante Hightower's been changing the game defensively. Calvin Noy, he's starting to make an impact now defensively. The team is starting to really gel. If they can really start to stay healthy, losing Jonathan Jones is huge, is a huge blow to this team. But so far, like the Panthers, they haven't really played a high-powered team. Yes, the Chargers, that's when they lost Jonathan Jones, but the Panthers, they were scared to throw the football. You were looking at that team like Panthers are not playing a smart game right now, just trying to run it down the Patriots throats where the Patriots have really figured it out defensively as well, how to stop the run, which was hurting them in the beginning of the year. So I think the major takeaways right now is Mac hasn't been playing well, and the Patriots have been able to find ways to dominate. And that goes to Bill Belichick. At the end of the day, you're always excited for this Patriots team due to the fact that you have Bill Belichick, and you know he's going to have a game plan for whoever he faces.
Shout
Right,
out to Jimmy Collins as well too.
Yeah, Jamie
I,
Collins, that play was like, I don't know.
that was stupid. That was
I don't think
ridiculous.
people really understand how difficult that interception is.
Yeah, it's
That's
not
a
easy.
I mean,
force.
he's an athletic freak, though.
He's a freak. He's a freak.
Your reaction time has to be very, very on point to make a play like that, and have solid hands as well.
It's
Well,
crazy.
you know who we haven't even talked about yet? J.C. Jackson.
Mm.
Yeah,
Two
yeah.
picks, a pick six. J.C. Jackson looks like he's shaping up to be a cornerback one, which I think I don't know. I don't know if I said some negative things a few weeks ago. I might have been down on J.C. Jackson, but I'm on the way up. I'm on the way up. We know he's a good player, but the way he played yesterday was obviously great. And then there's a couple other things I wanted to mention, especially on the offensive side of the ball. Ramondre Stevenson looks like
He's
he is
look,
carving something out.
he's looking like the guy that we were hyped about coming out of preseason.
Yeah.
He's the most talented running back on the team. It was clear before the season started that he was a more talented runner than Damian Harris.
Right. And so Ramondre Stevenson yesterday, I'm not going to do math here. I'm too stupid for that. Maybe 106 yards. I might be wrong. But rushing 10 carries, 62 yards, receiving 2 receptions, 44 yards, which you led both stats. And like you guys said, like this team is doing this without Mac Jones playing well. We know Mac Jones can play well, and we know Mac Jones is going to get better. And hey, we're not going to talk too much about it because by the time this comes out, maybe the news already broke on some sort of situation. But you add a guy like Odell Beckham Jr. to this offense, maybe that sparks a little something, especially with the deep ball. I don't know. Who knows? But this team is winning football games right now against the Chargers, very solid football team. Some may say overrated. Not me. I like the Chargers. The Panthers, I just don't think they're just not a good football team, but they still won. They had a solid they have a very solid defense, and the Patriots still pulled that one out 24-6. But if this offense gets rolling and this defense continues to play the way they have, like especially with the Bills slipping, the division's in reach.
Crazy. Bill,
It's
Bills
nuts to
Bills really
say.
messed up losing to Jacksonville.
Yeah. And just imagine if the Patriots, especially now that we sit here today, like they should have beat the Dolphins, right? They blew that game. They should have beat the Dolphins. That's another one if they get that one. And they were a field goal away from winning against the Bucks. They took Dallas to overtime. Like there are some wins that were in reach. So, I don't know if this team's not I don't think this team's a contender, for the long haul, but they have a legitimate chance at winning the division. And not to mention, you've got the Bills twice for the rest of the season. You have your
Yeah.
shot at them twice. They're in division.
It's making the season really exciting again. There was a point during this season you're like, oh boy, it's trending to one of those Sundays where you're just watching to watch. But now we're getting into a gear where every game's starting to be real important now, especially going into this week against the Browns.
And we're going to talk about Browns. This is another measuring stick game. And especially, I'm not going to get myself excited, but OBJ, he comes here. First game against the Browns, put up 200 yards. Baker Mayfield might be looking for some revenge too. It could be a hell of a game. I'm not saying I'm not going to get myself excited for an OBJ over to New England, but it's a possibility. Saying they moved James Ferentz off the active roster today, probably for Trent Brown, but whatever. So Browns coming up, guys. This is a measuring stick game. This one now, to me, is even more of a measuring stick game. Now that you have a couple of these wins out of the way, you're stacking up wins. You beat the Jets, you beat the Chargers, which was a measuring stick game. You get that one done. You face the Panthers now. This will show. I think this will show how good this team is. The Browns have a solid defense, and they've got a good offense. They have an explosive offense. This game right here can really show what this team is capable of.
Yeah, you're talking about a Browns team that you know they're one of the better teams in the league in terms of what they're capable of doing. Like this is not the sorry ass New York Jets we're talking about. The Browns, Baker Mayfield, that offense, that run game especially. I mean, I think Nick Chubb is healthy again, and I don't know how far off Kareem Hunt is from making a return to the lineup. I think he's on the IR, and I'm not sure when he comes off. But
I'm never gonna forgive Bill for taking Sony Michel over Nick Chubb. Especially, man, I had money on the Rams last night, and they tossed it to Sony Michel, and I don't know if it's just the way he runs, but I'm like, this guy is so slow. he's he's melting my brain while he's on the Rams.
yeah,
Keep
Nick
going. I'm
Chubb,
sorry.
Nick Chubb is legit, and I mean, I'm trying to think of the last couple of games that the Patriots had. Nick Chubb might be the most legit running back they faced in these last couple of weeks. I mean, obviously, again, Christian McCaffrey, first game back, probably not completely at full strength, so you didn't get him. Austin Eckler's a pretty solid running back, but I think anybody's taking Nick Chubb over Austin Eckler. I couldn't even tell you who the running backs are from the Jets. There's probably of
Michael
any,
Carter, he's a rookie.
nobody of real importance, but Nick Chubb is legit. I'm gonna be really interested to see how the Patriots, how Belichick, the defense, how they play against Nick Chubb. I'm not too worried about Baker Mayfield and Jarvis Landry and whatever other options he has there, David Njoku. Like those guys are so short, but like I need to see how the Patriots handle a guy as talented as Nick Chubb and what he brings to the table. That's where the test really is going to be for the New England Patriots. And like I said earlier in the previous segment, this defense has shown improvements over the last couple of weeks. Um, you had a test, like you said, Nick. They had a measuring stick game against the Chargers where you really got tested and you saw how the Patriots responded. Here's another opportunity, and especially with the run game, let's see what the run defense that the New England Patriots bring to the table can do when they're going up a guy as talented, as strong, as powerful, as good as Nick Chubb.
Marv, what do you think about this game coming up?
Yeah, the worst thing about not having Kareem Hunt is more Nick Chubb. They're just gonna feed the Browns go as far as Nick Chubb takes them. And that's what opens up the passing game for Baker Mayfield. And that's when the guys like Jarvis Landry's, Peoples Jones, Dernius Johnson, those guys start to become dangerous, is when Nick Chubb is on a roll. And he's one of the most talented running backs in this league. We we just don't get to see him much because we don't talk about him as much because his sidekick is just as talented in Kareem Hunt, and he does special things outside of just running down the field. Nick Chubb's gonna be a challenge. I remember was it 2 years ago when we faced the Browns?
I think
And
so.
we made Nick Chubb fumble a couple of times, and that's why the Patriots got in a big lead. But he
One was
still
on a
ended
long breakaway too.
but he still ended up with like 130 yards per game. He was still killing the pass. It's just unfortunately he fumbled the ball a couple times, and the Patriots were able to capitalize. Nick Chubb is a monster. He's a beast, and the Browns are coming off a real big win against the I believe it was the Bengals. They just
Yep,
Yeah.
yep.
they just destroyed the Bengals. Off a big win. So Browns are moving. That's a solid team right there. I like their defense. I'm a big fan of Denzel Ward. Mac Jones can't play like he's played his past two games, I don't think, in order and the Patriots win. I think Mac Jones needs to be a little better. The offense needs to be better. Passing game, which has been non-existent. Like, where are our receivers? Where
They don't
are
exist.
our
They
receivers?
overpaid Nelson Aguilar. That's my biggest takeaway from the season so far.
I mean, and that was a prediction when they signed him that would happen. I don't know
Yeah.
how many people saw Nelson Aguilar and said yes. Oh yeah.
By all of Twitter. Everybody that day was like, what?
I said yes, knowing who were some of the other dummies the Patriots had on the roster last season, but like it wasn't a yes, like oh they just got the one of the greatest wide receivers in the free agency. But if you saw the roster that they had last season, Nelson Aguilar was a step up from who they had before.
Yeah, like 18 throws. It's great if you can win a game and dominate a game with just 18 pass attempts. but we need to get our receivers involved. It's crazy. Every week we talk about a different position that needs to get involved. Oh, we got to get our tight ends involved. We got Jacoby Myers, who had only one reception last
Oh,
last game. Like the wide receivers were non-existent. I think you need to spread out this defense when you're facing the Browns and get everyone involved. And we're talking about Patriots could be undermanned going into this Brown game. We don't know the status of Damian Harris and Stevenson yet. Those two
That's
both
true.
left the game hurt last week. So there's a chance, knock on wood, but there's a chance your running backs are Brandon Bolden and JJ Taylor.
wow. That's
Hey, Brandon
yeah.
Bolden has been a little
And
surprising though this
and
year.
Bolden and I told you guys a couple weeks ago I'm gonna start bashing him. Now I'm gonna start praising him. Bolden's been solid. Bolden's been pretty solid when he's designated as your third down running back. He's been all right. So, but I don't know if I'm really happy to know he's my RB1 and then JJ Taylor is your RB2. That changes a little things there. But there's a chance that that could be a possibility with Stevenson and Harris both leaving the game last week.
You know what I'm worried about most, and we'll wrap it up here. I mean, so James Ferentz did get put on waivers today, so that opens up a roster spot. I got a lot of people are going nuts, OBJ, but I gotta think that Trent Brown's coming back, hopefully, because
Oh yeah.
you've
Yeah.
got a test this week, and my God, am I not excited to watch Isaiah Wynn versus Myles Garrett?
Sheesh. It's a big good point.
I'm not looking forward to that at all.
And
Isaiah Wynn this week. Hunter Henry had a chip block, and I don't think Isaiah Wynn knew where he was, knew what he was doing, because that's when Mac Jones got smacked, and it was unbelievable. It was Isaiah Wynn was standing there defending nobody. Hunter Henry clearly had a chip block, hit him, go. Isaiah Wynn was like, "Oh, wow, I should go get this guy." Probably too late. He's a mile by you at that point. So I mean, it's going to be a scary matchup on the ends this week, especially if you don't get Trent Brown back. This is a game where you need Trent Brown back.
Yeah.
that's a great point, especially with Mac. We know he doesn't hold the ball well too much once he gets hit. That ball, he's let a few go with some fumbles. So he's a fumble waiting to happen when he gets hit.
He's
Granted,
a rookie.
there've been some big hits. There've been some big hits, but he's good to let a few go.
Now I forget who hit him, but that one against Dallas, like I said last time I was on the show, I was in the stands, and I don't know if I was making it up in my head, but I swear I heard the crack. He came off his feet.
Did not think he was getting up from that hit.
Yeah. Hey, big game this week. Big measuring stick game. Interested to see what happens. Guys, anything else before we wrap it up?
I'm just, Marv brought up the fact that we don't know if we're gonna have Stevenson or Harris going into this game because they both left the injury. But a couple of weeks ago, I would have definitely thought we would have seen the opposite. I thought we'd see more out of the passing game and less out of the run game. But the Patriots have been in the complete opposite direction. You're getting a lot out of this running game and not much out of the passing game. So I'm surprised to see that. Obviously, we'll see what that looks like if you're undermanned, not having Stevenson and Harris, depending on their status. But this running game for the Patriots has been really solid, and you're getting less and less from, Myers and Bourne and Aguilar, and you're getting not much from the tight ends, but they've still been able to get a couple of wins in these last couple of games. So, we'll see what happens in this big Cleveland Browns matchup.
Marv, you got anything else?
No, man, I'm excited to see that Patriots have a chance to be division leaders. It's very possible.
By this time last year, we were full fantasy. We were full. Doesn't matter who the
Oh
Patriots
yeah.
playing. If I got a fantasy play on the other side, that's who I'm rooting for. I only got one win this year so far, so traded off my entire team. I'm done. And I do not. We got a bad punishment this year, and I'm not looking forward to it. All right. CLNS Media Patriots Roundtable, Nick Quaglia, Marv Ezhan, and Mike Molyneaux. Guys, we're going to talk to you next week following a big game against the Cleveland Browns and Baker Mayfield. Guys, we're going to talk to you next week. Thank you for watching, and thank you for listening.